welcome to IP Study Video Lectures. Today we will discuss the 6th chapter of Grade 8 English Grammar, and we will explore the world of verbs and auxiliaries. So our topic is verbs and auxiliaries. Before we go forward, let us understand what is a verb. Do you remember what is a verb? Very good. Verb is an action word. It tells us what something or someone does. There are two types of verbs, the main verb and the auxiliary verb. The main verb is the verb which tells us about the action. For example, run, eat. The auxiliary verbs are those verbs which helps the main verb to form the complete sentence. For example, she is running. He has eaten. In these two sentences, is and has, they both are auxiliary verbs because they are helping the main verbs eaten and running to complete the meaning of the sentences. So, both main verb and the auxiliary verb, they are both very important to form a sentence. Sometimes we require the auxiliary verb and sometimes we require the main verb to form the complete meaning of the sentence. Before we go forward, let us understand what we will learn before this chapter ends. So we will be able to learn and understand the verbs, differentiate between transitive and intransitive verbs, understand the role of auxiliary verbs, differentiate between primary auxiliaries and modal auxiliaries. So we will basically cover what is a verb, then differentiate, understand the difference between the transitive and intransitive verb. We will also understand what is the role of auxiliary verb, why are they important, and differentiate between the primary auxiliaries and modal auxiliaries. Before we go further, let us understand what is the importance of verbs or auxiliaries in the sentence. That means, what is the importance? Why do we use verbs in the sentences? Verbs helps us to tell about the tenses in the sentence. They help us to tell the questions. For example, they help us to convert the sentences into a question using the relevant tenses. They help us to understand negatives and the possibilities in the sentences. Now we will study each of the elements of verbs and auxiliaries in detail. Let's read the following example. Will you come for the school trip? I might come if possible. So in these two sentences, will and might, they both are very good. They both are verbs and they both are auxiliary verbs as well. Let's look at some more examples. They were playing in the garden. He has been working on the assignment all morning. We have completed the project ahead of schedule. He is studying for his exams. We play badminton in the evening. As you can see above, in all of these sentences, verbs are highlighted with pink. And a verb in a sentence may consist of one word, two words, or more than two words. For example, were, has been working, have completed, is, play. They all are verbs. They can be a one word, they can be two words, or they can be three words as well. It really depends what is the tense of the sentence. What kind of a sentence is it? Is it a negative sentence? Is it a question? Or what kind of a possibility, permission, or what kind of a mood is it expressing? A verb is a word which expresses an action or states what a person or a thing is, or expresses what is done to a person. So verb is an action word which states what a person or a thing is. That means what is the state of being, or expressing what is done by the person or what is done to a person. Let us understand what are kinds of verbs. There are two kinds of verbs. transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. Let's understand what are transitive verbs. The verbs which require an object to make their meaning complete are called transitive verbs. The boss made Arjun the manager. They distributed chocolates. So in these two sentences, made and distributed, they both are verbs. They needed an object to complete the meaning of the sentence. For example, in the first sentence, made, it required the object which is the manager. The boss made Arjun the manager. In order to complete the meaning of the sentence, the made verb required, because we're asking what did the boss make Arjun? The boss made him the manager. So it required an object to establish the complete meaning of the sentence. Now in sentence B, if we had left the sentence at they distributed, was it a complete sentence? Very good. Yes, it was not a complete sentence. So in order to establish the complete meaning, or in order to explain what was being distributed, well, chocolates. So in order to complete the meaning of the sentence, these verbs require the objects and they are called transitive verbs. Intransitive verbs. Now the verbs which do not require an object to complete their meaning are called intransitive verbs. That means these verbs can be used standalone or they do not require the object, because when we use these words, they are meaningful or they make the sentence meaningful by itself only. Let's read some examples. They arrived at the party early. Water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius. In both of these sentences, arrived and freezes, they are both verbs and they did not require an object to complete the sentence. They arrived at the party early. They do not require an object. Who arrived or how arrived, right? Water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius. Now freezes, water freezes, it is a factual thing. It did not require an object. So these are called intransitive verbs. But often in these sentences, we require some complements. For example, sentence A, they arrived at the party early. Here, early was being mentioned just to make the sentence more descriptive. Hence, these kind of sentences required a complement to make it more descriptive or more meaningful. So sometimes intransitive verbs can use a complement in the sentence. Such words or phrases that are required to complete the meaning of intransitive verbs are called complements of the verbs. So transitive verbs, they require objects to complete the meaning. Intransitive verbs, they complete the meaning and do not require an object. Sometimes they use some phrases or words which are called complements. They help to make the sentence meaningful for the intransitive verbs. Now let's dive deeper into auxiliary verbs. As I told you earlier, verbs are of two kinds: main verbs and auxiliary verbs. Main verbs are the verbs which express action itself. For example, running, eating, doing, writing, sleeping. Whereas auxiliary verbs are the helping verbs. They help the main verbs to complete the meaning of the sentences. Now we will study auxiliary verbs in detail. The auxiliary verbs are also known as helping verbs. We use them with the main verbs to make sentences. Some of the auxiliary verbs are is, am, are, do, did, can, may, will, must, shall, etc. Within auxiliary verbs, we have two types of auxiliary verbs: primary auxiliaries and modal auxiliaries. Primary auxiliaries are those which are not many in number. They are do, have or be. That means they describe all these three forms: to do, to have or to be. There are several forms of each of them as given below. Let us understand and study all of these forms in detail. Primary auxiliaries such as was, is, are, am, these are all primary auxiliaries. So, they express the three states: to do, to have, to be. Within do, we have primary auxiliaries as does and did. Within have, we have primary auxiliaries as has, had, having. Within be, to be state, we have is, am, are, was, were, been, being. Now, why do we need primary auxiliaries and how do they help us, or how do they help sentences or the main verbs? They help to form tenses. For example, she was helping the blind man cross the road. They help to form negatives. For example, they did not want to be absent from the class. They help to form questions. For example, have you ever played tennis? They help to form the passive voice. For example, eggs are added to the batter. So, the primary auxiliaries such as is, am, are, has, have, was, were, to do, does, had, all of these are used to form tenses, to form questions, to form negatives, or to even form the passive voice. Let's read some more examples to understand the primary auxiliaries in detail. But before we go forward, let us also remember or understand that all the primary auxiliaries, they change according to the number or the subject. For example, if the subject is in plural form, we will have to change the auxiliary verb. That is, primary auxiliaries will be changed if you have the plural form in the subject. If there is a first person in the subject, then we change the primary auxiliary or we use the primary auxiliary accordingly. Same with the second person as the subject. So, primary auxiliaries are dependent or they change with the change in number or the change in person of the subject. Let's read these examples now. She is singing a song. She is the first person and we have used is as the first primary auxiliary. If we had used they instead of she, that means it was a change in the number. Hence, we would have used they are singing a song. If it was the second person, like they have done their homework. So, with the second person, we often use have or are. With you are disturbing the whole class. That means that you can be the third person and it is singular in number. Therefore, we have used are. We are going to Shimla this Friday. With the third person and it is plural in number, we use are. Always with you, we use are because we are never sure of it whether it's a plural or singular. Hence, we always use the plural form. We take that as a plural form and we use are. With I, we always use am. I am singing a song. So, primary auxiliaries are dependent on the number or the person in the subject. So, she is singing a song. If I would have used it for the first person, that is I, that means I am singing a song. She is singing a song. If it becomes plural, they are singing a song or you are singing a song. Now we will study about modal auxiliaries. Modal auxiliaries are the verbs like can, could, may, might, shall, should, will, would, must, ought to, used to, need, dare. They're all called modal auxiliaries. What do they really do in the sentence? Well, they express the mood in the sentence. We can use them to express ideas of ability, possibility, permission, obligation, duty, etc. So, as I told you, that they express the moods in the sentences. So, sometimes we need to express the possibility of something. Then we use the modal auxiliary may or might. Sometimes we need to take permission. Now this one, you've often used it in the classroom. For example, may I come in, ma'am? Or can I come in, ma'am? So to express or to ask for permission as well, we use modal auxiliaries. Sometimes we use them to show the strong determination or the ability to do something, the possibility to do something, or sometimes to show the obligation or duty as well. So they really express the mood in the sentences. They're all called modal auxiliaries. Always remember that modal auxiliaries, they do not change with the number and person in the subject. So for example, if it is she, they, her, all of these, the modal auxiliary will remain same. Uses of modal auxiliaries. So you really need to know which modal auxiliary do we use to express a certain kind of a mood. So it really depends what are you trying to speak in the sentence. Accordingly, you choose your modal auxiliaries. Let us understand each of them in detail. Can and could. Can is used to express the ability. For example, she can solve this problem. So to express the ability, she can solve this problem, she can read in English, all of these expresses the ability to do something. For these kind of sentences, we use can as the modal auxiliary. Can is used to express permission. For example, he can use my bike. He can take my book. Could is the past tense of can, and it is used to express the past ability. I could swim across this river in a minute when I was young. That means it is expressing the ability but in the past, and it is not related in the present time. So for these kind of past ability and abilities, we use can and could. Can and could are also used to form negatives using not. For example, I could not attend the webinar because I was unwell. So, in order to form the negatives, we can use can and could as well. Cannot is also correct, could not is also correct. So, cannot, the short form or the contraction of cannot will be can't, and the short form or the contraction of could not will be couldn't. May and might. May is used to express the possibility. For example, it is raining cats and dogs. He may not come. It is raining cats and dogs means it is raining very, very heavily and he won't be able to come. That means he may not come. It is slightly different with the ability to do something, because can, which expresses the ability, that means I can do something or I cannot do something. But may expresses the slightest possibility of something may happen or may not happen. So it is raining cats and dogs, it is raining heavily and he may not come. May is also used to express the permission. So, may I wait here? So, even to ask permission, we sometimes use may. May is mostly used to seek permission from your seniors, teachers, and officers. With friends and equals, we can use can. So, can is also used to ask permission or to seek permission, but can is often used with your equals or with your friends. May is a bit formal form of seeking permission from your teachers, principals, or your seniors. May is used to express a request. For example, may I go to the terrace for a gush of fresh air? Might is used to express the possibility. He is a miser, but he might still lend you the money. Might is also used to express the remote possibility of something happening. That means he hasn't studied a bit, but he might manage a decent score. So may and might, now how are they different? They both express the possibility. May expresses the possibility of something that may happen or may not happen. Might is slighter than may. That means it shows a slighter possibility than may. Like, he is a miser, but he might still lend you some money. So it is expressing the possibility, but it has slighter chances to be true than may. It also establishes or expresses the remote possibility. For example, he hasn't studied a bit. So for attaining the good result, you have to study hard. Do you agree with me? Yes. So, but somebody who hasn't studied a bit, that means the goal is farther than achievable. That means it is a slighter and it is the least possibility of something happening good. So he hasn't studied a bit, but he might manage a decent score. That means there is a very weak possibility of this happening, but it might happen. So in those scenarios, we use might. Might is also used as past tense of may in the indirect speech. For example, she said that she might get admission in the London School of Economics. For using the may or might in the indirect speech, we always use might, and for the direct speech, we use may. So, might is also used as the past tense of may. May and might are also used to form negatives using not. I may not live in this house. Will and shall. Will in the first person expresses willingness, promise, determination. We will finish this work by tomorrow. So, this is a determination to do something. Sometimes you make a promise, I will not repeat this mistake again. That's a promise. Sometimes it is a willingness to do something. For example, I will achieve good results in the board exams this year. Will in the second and third person expresses the simple future tense. They will finish the work by tomorrow. So when we use them with the second or the third person, it expresses the simple future tense as well. Will is also used to express polite request or offer in question form. For example, will you open the door? Shall in the first person, like I, we, expresses the simple future tense. We shall leave for Kashmir next week. Shall in the second, you, and the third person, like he, she, it, they, expresses command or promise. So when we use them with the second and the third person, it expresses the command or promise. When we use them with the first person, it is a simple future tense. She shall have her library card by the end of this month. So this is with the second person and third person. So for these, we always use them to express a command or a promise. Shall is also used to express offer of service or suggestion in the question form. Shall I open the door? Will and shall are also used to form negatives using not. For example, she will not tell a lie, and the contraction of will not is won't. Similarly, she shall not tell a lie, or she shall not open the door. That means it expresses to form the negative as well. And there is a contraction for shall not is shan't. Now, would and should. First of all, would is used to express the past tense of will. Should is also used to express the past tense of shall. He said that they should go for a picnic. Would in the second person is used to express a polite request. For example, would you like to have a cup of tea? Now, should is used to express obligation. We should help the poor. We should brush our teeth twice a day. It expresses the obligation to do something. Would and should are also used to form negatives using not. For example, I would not accept his proposal. We should not break our promise. Must and ought to. Must is used to express strong obligation or compulsion. For example, we must eat healthy food. We must walk fast or we shall miss the train. Ought to is used to express the obligation. For example, you ought to sleep on time. Must and ought to are also used to form negatives using not. For example, we must not hurt others. We ought not insult anyone. So all of these are modal auxiliaries. Which kind of modal auxiliaries we did? We did can, could, may, might, shall, will, should, would, ought to, and must. Each of the modal auxiliaries have their own unique importance and they are used to express the mood and they are used uniquely in their own way. We need to understand each of their meanings in detail and then use them in our sentences. We have to be very careful while using the modal auxiliaries because it expresses the mood in the sentence, and using the wrong modal auxiliary or incorrect modal auxiliary can change the whole mood of the sentence and make your sentence incorrect. So that was all about verbs and auxiliaries. Verbs are of two types, transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. Transitive verbs are those verbs which require an object to complete their meaning. Intransitive verbs are those verbs which do not require an object to complete their meanings. There are two types of auxiliary verbs, primary auxiliary and modal auxiliaries. Primary auxiliaries are those verbs which expresses to be state, to have state, or to do state. So, verbs like is, am, are, do, does, have, all of these are primary auxiliary verbs. They help the main verbs to complete the meaning of the sentences. Primary auxiliaries are dependent on the number and the person of the subject. Whereas the other type is modal auxiliaries. They are those auxiliary verbs which help the main verbs to complete the meaning and to express the mood in the sentences. They're also very important but are not dependent on the number and the subject in the sentence. So they do not change with the number or the person in the subject or with the changes in the subject at all. So please keep revising all of these verbs and modal auxiliaries. Keep using them in your sentences. Till then, stay tuned for our next video lecture. Thank you.